So I have just been getting bombarded by emails and fan mail about my anatomy videos, so we've decided as a company to make more. Today's video is actually on the posterior thigh, which you can see right now. Just to start us off, I'm going to do a bit of orientation. First off, this is our medial side, as this is our sacrum coming down, and our lateral side shown here, demarcated by the IT band. So our first muscle we're going to start off with is the most superficial in the hip, and it's actually the Gluteus Maximus. And we can tell which gluteus muscle we're looking at by looking at the origin and insertion of the muscle. So I know this is Maximus just based off of the origin here on the sacrum, and I can see its insertion here on the IT band. So we can get rid of that. Next we have Gluteus Minimus, Medius, sorry, and that's shown right here. And it's medius because we see it actually originating in that iliac crest, or having the iliac crest as its origin, whereas we know minimus is somewhere about halfway up, where my pen's kind of outlining. Unfortunately, this model doesn't show minimus, so we'll just keep going, but bear with me that there's another muscle underneath there. Following in this deep hip, we go in a predictable order. So under glute minimus, which would be somewhere here, we have the piriformis muscle. My pen's outlining. Note how it runs very closely to the sciatic nerve's path down the posterior thigh. The next thing we have is called the Gemellus Sandwich, is what I call it. And if you can imagine two pieces of bread and something in between, this is kind of what it looks like. Of the superior gemellus, which is right here, as the top piece of bread. The thing in the middle is the obturatus internus. I remember it as the one that's in the sandwich, so it's the internus. And lastly, you guessed it, the inferior gemellus as the bottom piece of the bread there. And then lastly, we just have one more at the bottom here called Quadratus Femoris. And that should give you a hint to a forearm muscle that we've already learned in the past. So that's your hip. Just to quickly run it back over, we have glute max, which is taken off this image. Medius, line here, minimus underneath, piriformis shown here, the gemellus sandwich being the superior gemellus, obturator internus, and inferior gemellus. And then lastly we have Quadratus Femoris. And just to transition now to the hamstring muscle groups, we have, looks like two, but I promise there's more. Starting laterally here, we have the biceps femoris. So notice they have a common origin of the hamstrings, but biceps femoris does something different. It will actually go down and insert onto the lateral aspect of the leg. And that's actually how you're going to ID it, and how I've always done it reliably, as it's the only hamstring muscle that will come down that lateral side. Now, short and long head just lie snug on top of each other. It's kind of hard to see, but excuse me there. I have to do that once a video. We have the short and long head kind of tied together, but just know that the long head is superficial to the short head. And then a bit more medial, we have the other two hamstring muscles we want to talk about, which is semitendinosus and semimembranosus. Semitendinosus lies superficial to semimembranosus, which is right here by my pen. And if I take it off, which might take some time, there we go. We see tendinosus, membranosus, and you can see that clear division, and that's what it looks like. Now, remember how I said if it comes down lateral, it's biceps femoris. Medial, it's either tendinosus and membranosus, but that's hard to tell. So the way you have to be able to notice is you could look at its insertion, which we'll get into in a different video, but the way I kind of remember it is tendinosus is superficial, and membranosus is medial. So there's more M's in membranosus, so I think of that as the medial muscle. And then I just remember they're kind of hugging, or whatever you want to call it, together. And then, yeah, that's it for our hamstrings.